Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 13 of the Slow Smoke Pigskin podcast. What a 36 hours it has been. It has been so much fun and so exciting. However, we're going to get into some other stuff before we get there. I'm Aaron. That's Drew. What's up, buddy?
Cheers. What's up?
There's so much to talk about. All right, so let's start with NFL news that happened before the legal tampering period. Apparently, there's some potential Caleb Williams drama. Drew, you brought this up to me. What happened?
What I heard was he canceled his Bears workout. When I first heard it, there was no reason for it behind it. But then you brought to light that possibly there was some too much travel going on, and he didn't want to go from A to B to C to D to wherever else. So I don't know. I'm kind of getting the feeling that maybe we've got the Eli Manning thing going on again, where maybe he doesn't want to go. They haven't really been talking about Justin Fields going anywhere. Does he want to have to? He wants to be the first pick, like obviously, but does he want to be with the Bears if he has to fight for a job against Justin Fields? I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, I do think that when I read about the logistics of him going from the Combine to Jacksonville to Chicago to go back to USC, I understand some complications, but
who set that up in the first place? Like, who thought that was a good idea?
Well,
like, that's not something new.
Well, but the other thing I heard was that they're not in the top 30 player window. Like, so I don't know if you were aware of that, but like NFL teams get a certain number of interviews they're allowed to do with prospects. I think they call it the top 30. And the window for that hasn't started yet. So the Bears were actually asking him to come in before that window. And so that could have been why it was different than expected. And so that might be the problem. He was willing to do a top 30 visit when the time comes, but with everything else going on. Now, that being said, I could understand why the Bears wanted to bring him in early with free agency coming up, trying to trade Justin Fields, all that. So that might have had something to do with it. So it's probably nothing, but is what it is.
It's fun to speculate.
There you go. The next piece of news was that Jerry Jeudy was traded to the Browns for a 5th and a 6th. So I was surprised when the Broncos re-signed Tim Patrick with the number of wide receivers they had. They already had Courtland Sutton, and at the time, Jerry Jeudy, Marvin Mims. Well, that explains why they re-signed Tim Patrick. They still don't have a quarterback if they're going with Stidham, but Jerry Jeudy, honestly, getting a 5th and a 6th for Jerry Jeudy on his 5th-year option is actually not bad. That's probably more than I would have expected them to get for him. Next, Tyler Lockett renegotiated his contract. He's coming back for 2 more years. I forgot to write down the numbers, but that was somewhat surprising to me. I thought they were going to be moving on, looking at DK Metcalf and JSN as their primary receivers, but Lockett's coming back.
Only going to benefit them.
Yeah. Chris Jones, man, got paid.
Yes, he did.
5 years, $158.75 million with $95 million guaranteed. One of the top defensive linemen in the game. There's an argument to be made that he should have been the Super Bowl MVP. So they locked him up. Good for him.
The defensive players are definitely getting paid.
Oh, dude, defensive players seem to be getting paid way better than offensive. It's kind of crazy. Next one was a trade that kind of surprised me. Mac Jones to the Jaguars for a 6th-round pick. Now, we know the Pats wanted to get rid of him. Jaguars was not where I expected. He joins his rookie draft classmate of Trevor Lawrence. He's gonna sit behind Trevor. I don't think that's in question. So maybe he's going to go learn how to be a quarterback for a year or two and hope to get a shot in a couple of years, or hope that Lawrence get hurt. I don't know. That one was weird to me.
Yeah, I kind of think that they just didn't really have a solid backup, and now they do. So not solid, but you know what I mean. Like
Yeah.
he's doable, right? He can go in and that was kind of the thing is I think Lawrence kind of was hurt a little bit last year and kind of played through some things because they didn't have the backup. And so now if they have someone who's competent enough to run the offense and be able to give Lawrence the day off if he needs it type of thing.
The irony was that a couple of years ago they had Nick Foles, Gardner Minshew, and Josh Dobbs on that roster. So you want to talk about well-known,
Right.
showed up backup quarterbacks? They had three of them, and then they didn't have any.
Yeah, well.
Baker Mayfield, 3 years, $100 million with $50 million guaranteed to remain with the Bucs. Good for him. He bet on himself last year on a pretty cheap contract, and they did right by him. Good for Baker. You know, he's had a pretty tumultuous career after being the number one overall pick. He's always showed flashes. He had like 5 offensive coordinators in 3 years or something with all he had bounced around. So getting him to stay in an offense for a year with the same offensive coordinator, he did all right last year. So good for him.
Yeah, I'm glad they got that deal worked out because he wanted to stay and he likes the coaching staff and I think he just wanted to be in one place for more than less than a year.
Yeah, exactly. Kendrick Bourne re-signing with the Patriots, 3 years, $33 million. We knew that the Patriots needed to make moves at wide receiver. He was probably the best one they have had on the roster. If I remember correctly, I think he's coming off an injury, but either way, they've got one wide receiver spot locked up there. One of the biggest pieces of news, Mr. Russell Wilson to the Steelers. I called that one.
You did. Text thread between you, me, and our buddy Scott.
It's just the funny part about it is the Steelers are only paying him the veteran minimum, which is like $1.21 million. Right. But that leaves the Broncos on the hook for the rest of the $39 million that they owe him. So the Steelers will only pay just over $1 million, and the Broncos will be paying him 38 this year.
I mean, and why not? If that's what he was going to do, like, why not pick him up? He's still
absolutely.
He had a great second half of the season, like at least fantasy wise, he did.
Yeah, I mean, he was at least an average NFL starting quarterback last year. He was not the reason they lost. He was good enough. If he can manage the game at the vet minimum, it frees up a lot of space for the Steelers to do good things. Like, I think it's a very smart signing for the Steelers. And if he can be half the player he ever has been, it can work.
Or he can at least help Pickett along and, you know, they're setting themselves up for the future. Like Tomlinson said, it's going to be a quarterback competition. It's not going to, he didn't sign him to be the quarterback. So hopefully, you know, it probably will be, but you never know.
Yep. Moving on.
Oh, by the way, it's Let's Forge, I believe is what they're saying now.
That's what I said. I said let's
I've seen it a few places.
Oh, have you? I said let's forge. I've seen other places saying let's weld. I like forge is what I came up with. I'm gonna stick with it because I like it.
I think that fits.
T. Higgins, you know, we had talked about he got franchise tagged, but now he's not happy with that fact and has requested a trade. Earlier today, I've been hearing, the Bengals should try and trade T. Higgins and a couple of firsts for Justin Jefferson so that we get Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and Joe Burrow all back together on one team. Now, as a Justin Jefferson dynasty owner, I would love that because we'll talk about the Viking situation in a little bit, but I don't see that happening. But he's requested a trade. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
The other wide receiver who got the franchise tag, Michael Pittman, did get paid by his team with a nice long-term deal, 3 years, $70 million up to 71.5 with incentives with 46 guaranteed. That's a paycheck.
That's a paycheck. I would
kill
for like 0.5% of that.
I mean, that was good. I think it was the right move for them. He's been there. Like, that's the funny thing when you start talking about free agency is you don't see a lot of big name free agent signings because usually if they're free agents that teams want, they don't let them go.
Right.
So this year's free agency has been crazy because so many people did move. Um, One last piece of news came out this evening that Aaron Rodgers is on the short list of vice presidential candidates for RFK running as an independent.
I would definitely vote for Aaron Rodgers to be vice president.
No. Like I would,
Uh-huh.
I look at independent. The moment you say Aaron Rodgers, I'm out. I just out. That
Come on, ayahuasca for everybody. Come on, like this place would be better. This place would be better.
All right, so that's all the old news. Now let's start talking about the fun of March 11th and 12th, the legal tampering period, which is the stupidest name because it's not tampering if it's legal. So let's just call it the negotiation period. No, we got to call it legal tampering.
Why not just call it tampering? Like, why does it have to be legal?
Whatever.
Everybody knows when it starts, so just tampering.
It's just such a silly name. But either way,
let's start free agency 2 days earlier than it's supposed to. Period.
Yeah,
let's just call it what it is.
It's so silly. Anyways, before we get into all the free agent signings, since there's so many, want to break them down. I want to mention over the past couple of days there have been a few trades. Yeah. First one, the Bucks got a 2024 third for Carlton Davis, a 2024 sixth, a 2025 sixth from the Lions. So that's a defensive player and a bunch of pick swaps. The only interesting thing, the biggest interesting thing is that the Bucks get an extra third round pick.
Yeah.
Does that mean they're looking at a running back to help out Rashad, to mix it up from Rashad White? Who knows? Another Brian Burns, one of the, highly sought after defensive players, gets traded to the Giants for a second and a fifth. Now, when I first saw this, it's like, why they should have got more for Brian Burns than a second and a fifth, number one. Number two, why are the Giants trading for a player like this? They're in rebuild mode. I mean, he is fairly young, so I guess maybe that's why.
But a second?
Oh, and then didn't they sign him to a $150 million contract after that? I believe I forgot to write that down. Like, I'm pretty sure they traded him and gave him a giant contract.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Well, obviously it's a giant contract because he's playing for them.
Yeah. Dad joke. Rib shot.
Thank you.
Next one was a
big one.
The next trade was an interesting trade because everyone last night got word that Joe Mixon was being cut by the Bengals. Released. And then this morning, all of a sudden, he was not being released, and instead he was being traded to the Texans. At this point, I still haven't heard the details of the trade in terms of what the Texans are giving up for him. But as a Joe Mixon, once again, as a Joe Mixon dynasty manager, I am very happy with him going to the Texans and not being released. When he was released, I was very concerned. Going to the Texans is a wonderful landing spot. That was a place people thought maybe Saquon was going or some other big name,
Henry or something of that nature.
Yeah.
No, it's a good spot for him for you as his dynasty manager. That's a great offense to be a part of.
Yeah. And the last trade that happened this evening, Deontay Johnson and a seventh to the Panthers for defensive back Dante Jackson and a sixth. So this is like they traded Deontay Johnson for a cornerback and moved up one round in the draft. Like, this one's weird. Like, they just signed Deontay last year. I think this puts them square in looking at a first round wide receiver now.
Yeah.
And
I think it's a good move for the Panthers.
For the Panthers, yes. For the Steelers, I don't get it.
Weird. Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
well, he wasn't happy, so it's like if you're not happy, like he wanted out. So here you go. You're done.
But at the same
Have fun
time,
at the Panthers.
I don't remember how old Deontay Johnson is. He's not young. I think he's like 28 already.
I'll look it up real quick.
And they need to get some youth in there. So into the Panthers, I guess maybe he'll be a presence to help out some of the younger receivers for the time being.
I think there's more to it than just you. Like, yes, you want youth in there, but you have a youth. Like, what are they going to do at quarterback?
Well, I mean, the question becomes, he is 27 years old. The question becomes,
I was too busy talking. I can't multitask. Sorry.
Is Russ just a bridge quarterback, or do they think they've got 4 years out of him like that?
I'm talking about the Panthers.
Well, yeah, that too.
What are they going to like?
Yeah,
I mean, are they going to? They
for,
need help right now for their young quarterback. They need some makers that can catch the ball, that can run routes, that can do something for if they want to stick with their young quarterback.
Yeah, that's fair. All right. Anything else you want to talk about before we get into these ridiculous number of free agent signings? All right,
this is what we've been waiting for.
We're gonna do them by position, and then we're gonna do them by the order that they came in. This is not based on order of who we think is the most important. This is the order the deals came across. So let's get started. Let's start with running back.
Yes, we're going to do running backs because obviously there's the most of them. Go for
it. One couple of topics I wanted to mention here. So the sheer number of running backs signed, to me, further points out the weakness of the draft class because so many free agent running backs got deals that they wouldn't have got last year. And there were so many signings. Similar situation for quarterback. Like, there was a bunch of quarterbacks signed, but most of them are probably looking at backup jobs. Wide receivers, there was like 5 or 6 signed in the past day and a half. And you've got 3 or more wide receivers potentially on the field at a time for teams. So the fact that there wasn't a lot of those signings goes to show how strong the draft class is. And then also tight ends, more tight ends signed than I expected too. So it kind of reflects what we've been thinking about the draft class. It is pretty well reflected in how free agents were signed. You look very confused.
I had something just popped into my head about a signing. Someone signed with the Chiefs. So I don't remember who it was.
Irv Smith Jr. He's on the list.
He is.
But thanks for hopping all the way ahead.
You're welcome. You asked. You asked why I looked confused.
All right, sorry. Do the running backs.
But yeah, but that just what's the coincidence that it's a heavier than normal, I would say, top quarterback draft, and it's a heavy wide receiver draft, and that's what's lacking, but yet all of the free agents happen to be running back. Like, it's crazy how that worked out. And the NFL is not scripted.
Oh, God.
He rolled his eyes, everybody. All right, so our first running back to sign was DeAndre Swift with the Bears. He signed for 3 years at $24.5 million, just almost 15.5 guaranteed.
Yeah, this one was the first signing I heard of once the window opened, which was kind of a surprise. Like, A, that it was DeAndre Swift, and B, with the Bears. Like, I thought the Bears might make some kind of move, but I definitely didn't think they were going to go pay somebody that much that early. And DeAndre Swift has obviously proven he's talented. He was healthy last year. He had health concerns in the past. This one was kind of surprising, and it absolutely kills Roschon Johnson and Khalil Herbert's value, because if you're paying Swift $8 million a year, he's coming in to be the starter. So it was an interesting move.
Yeah, it is. But it's kind of, if they were going to stick with Fields, it's kind of their missing piece in that offense. Like, they've had some running backs, but no one has as good as like DeAndre Swift. So I think that was kind of their thinking, where depending on what quarterback they had, they needed a running back that they could hand the ball off to, and that's going to get some good yards and score some touchdowns.
The only thing about that is that I believe Swift's pass blocking has come into question in the past. So maybe he's not getting a 3-down role, but
Right.
either way. All right, which was
Right. Most teams are moving to a two back, at least a two backfield, anyways.
right.
Next up is your boy Tony Pollard to the Titans, 3 years, 24 mil.
Yeah, it's funny because I haven't been able to find how much money he got guaranteed to see what this really means. I'm obviously sad that he's left the Cowboys because we're basically running backless right now, and we've made no moves. It's making me very frustrated and angry. But it's an interesting spot because once again, $8 million a year is not chump change. That's the type of money you're paying a probably starting quarterback. Anybody who has Tyjae Spears and didn't trade him before yesterday just took a crap in value. You should have traded him a week ago when everybody thought he was going to be the starter.
Yeah.
Tony Pollard was much more successful when he was splitting time with Zeke. That being said, the problem with that is that both Tony Pollard and Tyjae Spears are undersized backs.
They're similar.
So it's kind of a weird fit for him. Because I don't see, after the year he had last year, I don't see Tyjae Spears going away. Pollard should be somewhat productive, but it was just kind of a weird fit. And as if we didn't know already, that was the signal that Derrick Henry definitely wasn't coming back to Tennessee.
Correct. Next to sign was Josh Jacobs to the Packers for 4 years, 48 million, 12.5 guaranteed.
So this was so interesting because they signed him before they released Aaron Jones. Once they released Aaron Jones, it made a little bit more sense. When he first got there, I was listening to a podcast that was talking about him getting signed there, and Aaron Jones hadn't been released at that point, and they were like, "Oh, both of their values just took a giant crap," and then during it, Aaron Jones got released, and they're like, "Take everything we said back. Josh Jacobs is an RB1 now in a good offense." But the really interesting thing about this deal to me is the fact that it's only $12.5 million guaranteed, because that basically means it's a 1-year deal with some add-on years at the end, like option years for the Packers. And Josh Jacobs was so mad about all his situation over the past 2 seasons. Like, $12.5 million is not very far past the franchise tag in terms of guaranteed money. So he may be he just put himself in a situation to potentially be cut in a year if he doesn't perform. So 4 for 48 sounds good, but the guaranteed money is not there. So it's really kind of an interesting one to me.
Yeah, I definitely agree. But I mean, that obviously puts the Packers in a different situation. I think it's always nice to see, and it's kind of a recurring theme that I've been seeing. Like, I feel like people just need new places to go, fresh starts.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, the Packers obviously are the up and coming team. They've got a lot of young talent, a good quarterback. So, yeah. Our boy Saquon Barkley to the Eagles, 3 years, almost $38 million to anywhere to $47 million. He did get 26 million guaranteed.
Yeah, so base is 30, just under 38, and with incentives can go up to almost 47. If he hits all the incentives, it'll be like the second highest paid running back in the league, which I think he deserves if he performs there. Like, he's shown well. That being said, man, I thought we were going to get rid of him in the NFC East. And no, he just had to go to a team with a better offensive line.
Team.
Yeah, he went from, I believe last year, the Giants were the 30th ranked offensive line and the Eagles were the third. I know they lost Kelsey, but they still got a whole bunch of other good guys, and their center has been waiting in the wings, learning for the past couple of years.
He's been learning. He's the Kelsey Jr.
Yes.
At least if he was on the Giants, you knew, well, at least we can just go focus on one person when we go there. But now I know you have an offense to focus on. Good luck.
Yeah, I'm not happy. By the way, did you hear about Tiki Barber's comments on it?
I've heard that he made some stuff, but I haven't
Yeah.
paid attention to it. What do you?
Tiki Barber, because Tiki Barber was a Giant,
Yeah.
and Saquon went to the Eagles within division. He made some comment about "you're dead to us," and it's like, bro, like honestly, and there
Why
people are
wouldn't
trying
you
to.
go? Like, who cares?
Here's the real issue. People are giving him a hard time for going in division, and they're blaming him. And you know what? It's the Giants' fault. They're
100%.
the ones who didn't pay him. He's been loyal. He's
Four
been there
years?
trying to, huh?
He's been there for 4 years, right?
Five,
5 years, and you haven't done anything for
Yeah, I mean
five years.
he was on a rookie contract and then they franchise tagged him. So
Yeah.
he's been trying to get a long-term deal. He got a long-term deal. Like it's tough sledding as a NFL running back right now. So he did what he had to do to get paid. I don't
Yeah.
blame the man. Like I said,
Blame.
I hate that he's in my division still with a better team. Not looking forward to that because one more weapon for that team,
Right.
but good for him.
Right. Yeah. Like, why have the Giants not tried to do anything offensively in 5 years except for Saquon?
They should have. They made a giant mistake giving Daniel Jones the money last year instead of giving it to Saquon, and it is coming back to bite them in the ass.
Yes,
I think
you need to stop saying giant when you're referring to the Giants.
Oh, whatever. I believe there's an out for the Giants on Daniel Jones' contract after this season.
But they believe in him.
We'll see after this year. Anyways, okay, enough time about Saquon and making me depressed.
Okay. Antonio Gibson to the Patriots, signed with the Patriots, 3 years, 11 and a quarter, 11, just over $11 million salary base with 17 and just over 17 total with incentives.
Yeah. This is another interesting move because once again, it's pairing him with Ramondre Stevenson, whose best performances were based on pass catching. Antonio Gibson's was a wide receiver in college, so he's good at pass catching. So it's kind of a weird fit to me. But, and then the other thing is, Bill Belichick, when Bill Belichick was there, if you fumbled, you were benched, right? Antonio Gibson has had fumbling issues in the past. Belichick's gone, but Gerard Mayo was like Belichick's protege. So is he going to have the same thing? And Antonio Gibson's going to fumble once and then just be done playing for the rest of the season. So it's weird move to me.
I agree. I don't know. I mean, I guess the money is the price is right. It's kind of this is how much we can spend on a running back, so this is what we can afford, and this is what we're going to get. So we'll try to make it work. We don't have a quarterback, so doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Devin Singletary to the Giants to replace Saquon. He got 3 years at $16.5 million base with $19.5 million total with incentives.
Yeah, they obviously had to replace Saquon. This was a lot of money for Devin Singletary in my mind. I didn't expect Singletary to get that much per year. He had a productive year last year in Houston.
I heard something podcast, or I was watching the NFL Network earlier, and I think they said that actually Singletary's stats were better than Saquon last year alone, as far as like yards were similar, everything, but his touchdown production was better. So they were like, kind of, it's an upgrade. Obviously, Saquon's ceiling is way higher, which is what you are paying him for and stuff. But I don't see that being a bad fit for the Giants at all.
No, I think it's a decent sign. Like I said, it was just a little bit more money than I expected. But
gotcha. Okay.
I think it's a very reasonable move for them.
Yeah.
Just more money than I anticipated.
Gus Edwards to the Chargers, 2 years at $6.5 million.
So this one is, this potentially points to me that they're going to draft Blake Corum in LA so that Singletary, excuse me, Singletary. Harbaugh gets his, you know, pack of running backs. You could get Corum, who he trusts and whatnot, but is smaller, and then you get Gus Edwards, who is a beast in short yardage. If Gus were to get all the work in LA with a Harbaugh Roman offense, and by the way, he's got familiarity with Greg Roman from the Ravens, um, Gus Edwards could be huge. But the fact that they didn't sign a super expensive big name and got someone like Gus, I really think Blake Corum's gonna end up there now.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So
he's a
but
decent running back for the price that they paid for him. He's on clearance.
Yeah, I think that's a good move for Gus for sure.
Yeah.
There was a piece of me that was hoping Gus would go to the Cowboys as a cheap short yardage option. Like get if they had gotten Pollard back or somebody like that and then got Gus Edwards for the goal line, it could have been beautiful. But no, we just don't sign anybody. It's fine.
And that's a really good point that you just said right there was for as a dynasty owner, like he's gonna get touchdowns.
Yep.
So
congrats, Eddie.
He's not gonna get his yard. He's not gonna get 100 yards in a touchdown a game, but he could get 2 or 3 touchdowns a game being the goal line running back, especially in that offense.
Yep.
So
ironically, after we talk about who signed with the Chargers, we talk about the next guy.
The guy that left the Chargers or is no longer with the Chargers, Austin Eckler, to the Commanders, 2 years, $11.5 million.
The funny part is I wrote 11.5 there. I actually believe that 11.5 is with incentives. I think his base is only like a little over 8, if I remember correctly, which is kind of shocking that it was that low. I knew it wouldn't be great, but there was a part of me that thought if he was only going to get something like $4 million a year, that he might just retire. Like he
took the best offer he got.
Yeah, I mean, he's got he's very entrepreneurial. I think he's got a career in broadcasting and media and whatnot when he's done. I'm kind of surprised. That being said, he's a great fit for the Commanders. They got Brian Robinson, who is the tough runner, and then you throw Austin Eckler in there as a third down receiving back. Like, it's not a bad fit. Biggest question is who's their quarterback. If they end up with Drake May and he's young and you've got that safety valve of Austin Eckler to be able to dump off passes for a young quarterback, that's a young quarterback's best friend. So that could work nicely.
And it'll keep both running backs healthy for the year. Like Eckler got hurt last year because he was the workhorse and he can't do that anymore.
He's undersized for that.
So when they can split time, that's going to create longevity for both of those running backs.
Yep.
Chase Edmonds to the Buccaneers. He got a 1-year contract. We don't really know how much it's worth.
Yeah, I mean, he re-signed. Honestly, the biggest thing that is good news for Rachaad White, because if that's who they're bringing back as his backup and they're running the offense back with Rachaad White as the bell cow again, his value is huge.
Zach Moss, Bengals.
So yeah,
2 years for $8 million.
Yeah, so this was all the craziness drama last night. Like right before I was going to bed, that the Bengals signed Zach Moss and then said that they were releasing Joe Mixon, and then they traded him. But Zach Moss showed some stuff in Indy last year, right? When Jonathan Taylor was out, Zach Moss showed up, showed out, earned himself a deal. The Bengals need to worry about cap space considering they put Higgins on a franchise tag. They paid Burrow a whole lot of money. Jamar Chase is going to have to get paid soon. Higgins got to get paid in some form. I think this is a good move for them. Is Zach Moss a downgrade from Joe Mixon? It's arguable. Like I think probably a little bit, but
as far as production goes from the previous year, yeah.
But Joe Mixon's 27 years old. I think Zach Moss is younger. So it's a good move for them in my mind. It was just crazy. He's 26, so he's not that much younger. But it they moved on from Mixon and got not much of a downgrade for cheaper price, and it works.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Aaron Jones to the Vikings.
Yeah,
Signs with the
so
Vikings for 1 year, 7 mil. 1 year surprises me a little bit. I mean, I don't know.
no, it doesn't really surprise me. So, by the way, Zach Moss was like the end of last night, and then Aaron Jones got released yesterday, and then this morning started the morning off with him already being signed.
Yeah.
I mean, he's 29 years old. I didn't expect him to get more than a 1 or 2 year deal. He went in division. I think this was a little bit of FU back to the Packers so that he gets to see him twice this year. But the Vikings couldn't go into the year with Ty Chandler. Yeah, yes, Ty Chandler showed some production. They released Madison, they released Akers, so they had not a whole lot on the squad. And Aaron Jones is a veteran presence to help whoever the heck is playing quarterback there. We still haven't got into that yet. I forgot. We'll get to
We have
quarterbacks.
not. We started with running backs because
Yeah.
there's so many of them. Yeah. I don't really have much to say about it.
Yeah.
Naheem Hines to the Browns. 1 year, 3.5 mil.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of surprised he got paid that much coming off a lost season last year. He didn't play at all because of his injury. The Browns, if that means Naheem Hines is their third down back and they're going to stick with Nick Chubb, then that's almost surprising to me. I wasn't sure, especially because we don't know if Nick Chubb's going to be available. By the way, I forgot about Jerome Ford. Just kidding, he's there too. But they need some running back depth. I think there's a lot of teams that are with what a lot of teams have seen in terms of injuries over the past couple of years. They're trying to make sure they got a couple of guys in line so that they don't run into these kind of situations again.
Yeah, and it's not just season-ending injuries. It's a tough league. You can't. These running backs aren't going to play 16 games. Like, there's very few that are going to play every single game of the season. They need some time and stuff like that. So, yeah. Anything else?
Not on Naheem Hines.
All right, so we got D'Ernest Johnson to the Jaguars for 1 year, unknown as what the salary is.
I didn't see what it was. He's back for some depth. They hope that Tank Bigsby's going to be better than he was last year. They thought he'd be behind Etienne, but D'Ernest Johnson has showed flashes in Cleveland and in Jacksonville of being able to be a reasonable backup, so they're bringing him back for a year. Anything else on D'Ernest?
Nope. All right, next up we have Mr. King Henry himself signing with the Ravens for 2 years, base of 16 mil with incentives 29 guaranteed.
Wee doggy. So that's another one that's basically a 1 year contract with a 2nd year option, because I think most of that 9 is. But Derrick Henry on the Ravens. Man's going to score 600 touchdowns and finally make Lamar Jackson not get killed. And can you imagine trying to defend the RPO or option or something like that with Lamar and Derrick Henry running at you? Like, this is where most people expected him to go, is like either the Ravens or the Cowboys were the front runners that people were talking about. So I was surprised this one took so long to happen, because, it was a day and a half into the negotiation period. I'm not calling it tampering. But this is where we expected him to go, and that's it. The Ravens could be very scary this year.
So what this does for the Ravens is it allows them to run the clock out. Whereas before they were using their 5 different running backs and Lamar Jackson, so they can close out games, which is scary.
Yeah.
the number thrown around of the yards that Derrick Henry could potentially get with this offensive line and this offense is back up to like 1,500, which is ridiculous. I don't think it's going to be that high, but I wouldn't be surprised if he had 1,000-yard season on half the amount of carries.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is half the amount of carries.
I'd be super intrigued. I haven't looked at it. I should have, of what the betting market did for the Ravens for the Super Bowl yesterday
I thought
versus
about that
today.
last night, and I was like, it's prior to on Monday is when you should have placed your bet because you knew something was going to happen, and that's why you place a bet. But anyways, yeah, correct.
Only one more running back left that I heard.
Last of, but not least, meaning it's the last that we have to talk about, but there's still other running backs out there. DJ Dallas to the Cardinals, 3 years, just over $8 million.
Yeah, I mean, they need a third down back to go along with James Conner, or maybe not even a third down back, but another backup. DJ Dallas is shown capable. Cool. Just like you mentioned, there's some other running backs still out there. None of them are all that interesting to talk about. J.K. Dobbins, if he hadn't gotten hurt, maybe, but he's had so many injuries. A.J. Dillon, Zeke is still out there, but nobody super exciting.
Zeke's going to help somebody out that needs it at some point in time this year. He did that with the Pats last year. I think that kind of fueled the fire for him. I think someone's going to pick him up. Maybe it might not be until the beginning of the season when somebody gets hurt, but
Cowboys.
You disagree, huh? Okay.
No, I was just thinking the Cowboys need a running back.
They do.
I don't know how I feel about old Zeke coming back. Anyways, all right, on to quarterbacks.
Quarterbacks. First up is the baller himself, Mr. Kirk Cousins, going to the Falcons, signing with the Falcons for 4 years, $180 million. Somewhere between 90 and 100 million guaranteed.
Yeah, I don't know. I've heard 100 in a report. I heard 90 in a report. I'm not sure what the right number. Either way, the funny part is based on existing NFL contracts, I'm not going to worry about what people sign next year. If people play out all the contracts that they have right now, Kirk Cousins will have made the 5th most money all time, only behind Patrick Mahomes, Matt Stafford, Aaron Rodgers, and who was the 4th one?
Do you know the number? It's like it's like $291 million or something like that.
Oh, it's no. He's at 231 right now. If he gets the full 180, it'll put him over $400 million for his career. For a guy who's won
one playoff win.
That's exactly what I was about to say. Okay, now let's stop talking all the crap about the stupid amount of money. That being said, if he comes back healthy, the Atlanta offense could be explosive. I'm getting ahead of myself. They signed another wide receiver. They got Drake London. Kyle Pitts was more hurt last year than we were led on. They got Bijan. They have potential for huge offensive firepower now.
I don't know exactly. I don't remember exactly last year, especially with the Falcons, but I feel like they had some leads in some games and they gave up. They gave up the leads. But he's the type of player that they're gonna put up some points, and if their defense, which isn't terrible, can stop and he can just manage the rest of the game, that's great.
Yeah, I think they have to be the front runners for the NFC South now. I mean, the Bucks got Baker back, and the Falcons, the Saints and the Panthers they've made a lot of good moves, but I don't think they're ready to compete. So I think this is the Falcons division to win. That being said, this left a giant hole in Minnesota that is now a problem.
But they didn't want to bring him back, so they have a plan. They have a plan. If they don't, then their front office should be fired, and we should take over. No. You don't want to move to Minnesota?
No, I do not. It's cold. It's like
Maybe
really
we can
cold.
do a remote job.
There you go. We'll be remote GMs. Yeah, get right on that.
All
All
right,
right.
next up we've got Gardner Minshew to the Raiders for 2 years, 25 mil, 15 guaranteed.
You know what? Good for Gardner Minshew. Like, I I don't know if he's going to be the starter or the backup. I think it's going to be a true quarterback competition between him and Aiden O'Connell. Battle of the mustaches. Although Gardner's mustache is way
There's no
better.
battle there.
Yeah, I mean they both got mustaches. One is way better than the other. Um, I think he'll have a legitimate chance unless they are also planning to bring in a rookie. Maybe it's decent money, good for Gardner getting paid. He's an interesting player. The Raiders have been such a crap show of a team over the past few years. I don't know that this is going to change much, but at least he's got himself paid, so good for him.
Yeah, I mean, he does very well everywhere he's gone, whether he's come off the bench or had to start. So they still need a running back,
No,
right?
Zamir. I think Zamir White's their plan.
Oh, okay.
I think he showed enough the end of last year that he won himself the job. I think they re-signed Amir Abdullah as their
Okay.
pass catching back. So I think it's Zamir White.
Then I mean yeah, he can give the ball to Devonta Adams and everything will be all good.
Yep.
Jacoby Brissett to the Patriots, 1 year, $8 million with 12 million in incentives.
Yeah, that so he's going back to the Patriots where he's been before.
Mm-hmm.
He's a great veteran presence. If they are getting a rookie, assuming that they're planning to take a rookie with the number 3 pick, if nothing else, Brissett could start for the first few games to let the rookie get, not be immediately thrown into the fire, let him learn the offense a little bit more before he gets in the game. Or he's a good mentor for these young kids. I mean, it kind of sucks because when he has played, he has performed pretty well, but he's a solid backup to have as a backup plan returning to New England. So
I don't think New England is trying to win a championship next year,
no,
right?
no,
So for someone to steer the ship in the right direction, he's the perfect player for that.
yep.
And again, if they pick somebody that they think is NFL ready this year, and they're not going to start game one, though, whether it's 2 or 4 or 5, whatever it is, yeah, that's a good pickup for him.
Next guy moving across town.
Yes, Tyrod Taylor to the Jets, who apparently needed a backup quarterback. 2 years at 18 million. They needed a starting quarterback because he's going to be the vice president of the United States. Just kidding. Yeah, 2 years at 18 mil.
Like I said, he gets to play in the same stadium that he's been playing in, but I think it's a smart move for them. I mean, we saw what happened when they lost Aaron Rodgers. The team fell apart. Tyrod Taylor is at least a competent NFL quarterback who can keep things afloat if Rodgers goes down again.
Yes. Sam Darnold to the Vikings.
Yeah, if this is their backup plan, God help us all.
He's not a terrible quarterback. Yeah, he's not a garbage, right? He can throw the ball, he can call a play, he's not where Justin Jefferson does not want to catch passes from Sam Darnold. Unless he has to.
Sam Darnold is slightly better than Zach Wilson. Slightly. Jets quarterback drafted I think wasn't Darnold number 2 as well?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
He's the prequel to Zach Wilson, and I'm shocked he got $10 million. Yeah, if this is the Vikings plan, there's no way Justin Jefferson's re-signing. So hopefully there's some other plan. And I don't see it being Justin Fields because I don't see the trade-in division happening.
No, that was thrown out. I heard earlier today something like that, where it's a possibility, But I don't see the Bears doing that to where it's like, but it's like, if you don't want Justin Fields, then what does it matter if you play him twice? If you want him, then you should want him on your team. And if you don't want him, then what does it matter? You should not care if you're going to play him twice.
Yeah. Wow.
But so again, I don't think Justin Fields to the Vikings is a very good move anyways.
Yeah.
Not that style.
Yeah. Well, they better figure out something if they want to resign the Jag.
Right. Who knows? Maybe Sam Darnold is their answer. Marcus Mariota to back up at the Commanders. 1 year, $6 million base, 10 years with incentives. He's obviously just, what did I just say?
10 years.
You know what I mean?
The only reason this one is surprising to me is Sam Howell's still on the roster on a rookie contract. So I don't know why they needed to add Mariota for a decent amount. I mean, for a quarterback, it's not a whole lot of money, 6 to 10, but like it was just weird to
I think they're just paying him to be a teacher.
Is that who you really want to teach your quarterback? Do you remember how bad he was when he last played in Atlanta? It was not good.
He was okay in Tennessee.
Okay.
He made the playoffs. I think he had a playoff win.
Yeah, okay.
That's more than Sam Howell can say.
Yeah.
But anyways, I think it has to be. It's a veteran presence. It's somebody that if quarterback after quarterback goes down, whoever they do draft to be their quarterback needs more time. Like they have it. It's an extra option. It's an expensive option, but it's still an extra option.
Okay.
Jameis Winston to the Browns. They're just under $9 million.
Yeah, this one, if Deshaun Watson plays the way Deshaun Watson has for the past couple of years, get Jameis Winston and have him throw his YOLO balls. You know, that's a great thing about Jameis. He just throws it up and gives somebody a shot. Somebody's out there. Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy, somebody catch the ball. Oh, dang it. The guy who caught the ball was on the other team. It's okay. I still technically got a 40-yard completion. So
total yards. That's all that matters.
Yeah, he's obviously the backup to Deshaun Watson, but we saw what happened with the Browns this year, having to get Flacco back in.
But is he really better than Flacco? Like,
I think
why
so.
wouldn't you just bring?
He's younger
But as a backup, like you have to assume that. I mean, obviously Watson got hurt, but
yeah. All right, so the Giants lost Tyrod Taylor, so they needed a different backup.
Drew Lock.
That guy's just been disappointing all over the place. Disappointed in
so it's a good fit.
Yeah, exactly. He disappointed in Denver. He went to Seattle and couldn't beat out Geno Smith. Like he's a somewhat serviceable backup for $5 million. Sure. Great.
Yeah. He gets hopefully it's not for more than a game.
Yeah.
Hey, we get to move on to a new position. Wide receiver.
By the way, only other quarterbacks that I could think of that might at all matter that are free agents, Tannehill and Flacco, and neither of those are interesting. So that doesn't help.
You're telling me that Tannehill or Flacco are better than Drew Lock as a backup? Like,
but they probably want more money.
More money?
Yeah.
All right, I get that. Okay.
All right, sorry. Wide receivers.
Gabe Davis, Jaguars, 3 years, 39 base, 50 mil with incentives. 11 guaranteed.
Yeah, that the 11 guaranteed was the surprising number. 3 years, 39 million, and only 11 guaranteed. That is a crazy low number, which means he's not solid. He needs to prove himself or he's gone. The Jags, I don't know if this means that they're still in the Ridley market or if this means they'll release Zay Jones because he kind of does the same thing as Zay Jones. That's not the landing spot I expected for Gabe Davis. He's trying to prove himself. He's been such a boomer bust player the past couple of years. I think he's still just going to remain a boomer bust deep threat, even on the team. Christian Kirk's the primary receiver. Uh, if you could have Gabe Davis and Calvin Ridley on the outside with Christian Kirk in the slot, that's a tough set of receivers, but this one's weird. I didn't get it.
It's does that leave money for Ridley? That's kind of what you think, but yeah, I don't have much more to say on that, but you
Yeah.
said it all.
Oh.
All right. Devin Dervaney to the Jags, 2 years.
Duvernay. He's
Sure.
he's
You know me and my names.
he's primarily a special teams player, but he has played some receiver. Once again, another receiver slash special teams player to the Jags doesn't fully make sense to me, but okay, he's there.
Yeah. Jalen Rigger to the Patriots, 1 year at 1.13 million.
Yeah, it's re-signing there. Jalen Rager, former first-round pick of the Eagles, getting a tiny little contract to stay with the Pats. Gross.
Noah Brown, Texans, 1 year. Not sure.
Yeah, I mean we had mentioned that they were going to need another wide receiver behind Tank Dell and Nico Collins. He was there last year. He re-signed for another year, run it back. I think it's a decent move. I'm sure the money's not huge.
Makes sense.
Next, pretty much
this is a good one.
Yeah.
Darnell Mooney to the Falcons.
Yeah, 3 years, $39 million with 26 guaranteed. That's legit money. He gets to be the deep threat to go along with Drake London. Once again, if Kirk Cousins comes back healthy, this offense is legit and scary. And 26 million guaranteed, that's real money. He's around for a couple of years. This offense could be fun for a couple of years. They got a lot of young talent.
Minus Cousins. Devontae Parker to the Eagles.
Yeah,
1 year, 4.69 million.
Yeah, he got released by the Patriots yesterday and signed with the Eagles today. I think he's a decent third option to fill out for the Eagles. They've already obviously also got their top two. This is a third pass catcher to have them some depth. I don't like how good the Eagles' moves have been. That being said,
hey, what have the Cowboys done?
They re-signed their long snapper. That's the only contract. That's literally the only contract they've done in the past 2 days is they re-signed the long snapper. And
I had to ask you, who is that?
Yeah. But Howie Roseman, the GM of the Eagles, is one of the top in the league. He has done magic over the past bunch of years, and respect to that man.
So we're gonna move on to tight ends now, starting off with Drew Sample signing with the Bengals, 3 years, 10.5 mil.
Yeah,
they lost Irv Smith, right?
Yeah, but so Drew Sample's been a solid player for the team. This isn't a huge money contract. I keep him there. I don't have any issue with it. It's nothing super exciting for fantasy, but we knew that they needed to do something at tight end, and that's actually one of the things they did at tight end.
Yeah, they don't use their tight ends as much as on a daily game basis as much as other teams do. They might use more of the multiple tight ends and stuff like that. But
here's the ironic part. Let's skip around a little bit on our list here for a minute. They also signed Mike Gesicki to a 1 year, little over $3.25 million deal. Right. Now, Mike Gesicki is never been a blocker. He's been known as a pass catcher. So now they have Mike Gesicki hasn't been great over the past couple of years. He did not fit in the Patriots' plans, but when he was in Miami, he was a decent pass catcher
Right.
and a very athletic pass catcher. So that one is interesting to to give them another weapon on offense.
Right. That's
So
a good point. Good point there.
yeah.
So we'll go with Will Dissly to the signing back with the Chargers, 3 years, $14 million.
This one's just shocking to me because I thought Will Dissly was like ready for retirement. Like I didn't think he'd be getting a 3-year deal. The Chargers lost Gerald Everett, and so they needed to replace him. But Will Dissly? Okay. Okay. Fine. Whatever.
Sure.
Yeah.
Noah Fant with the Seahawks, 2 years at 21 mil.
Yeah, so he came over in that trade with the Broncos a couple years ago, re-signed 2 years, $21 million is actually a pretty good chunk for a tight end.
Yeah.
He's another guy who's very athletic, but he hasn't shown the production. So that one kind of surprised me that he got that much money. So good for him.
We talked about Mike Gesicki, so we'll move. And we talked about Irv Smith with the signing with the Chiefs earlier on the podcast. But obviously, hopefully, your boy Kelsey's not retiring. This isn't like a precursor.
Yeah, this one didn't make sense to me because I think Noah Gray is still under contract. Travis Kelce's still under contract. Why did they need a third one? Like. I didn't get this one.
I don't know. Me either. I saw Chiefs and I was like, wait a second, why? He wants just to get him a ring, maybe. That's maybe. Like you pay me to sit and get a ring. Okay. And you've already mentioned this one, Gerald Everett to the Bears, 2 years, 12 base, 14 with incentives, 6.1 guaranteed.
Yeah, this is another strange one. We knew he needed to go somewhere else. The Bears have Cole Kmet already. They had Robert Tonyan, but maybe Robert Tonyan still isn't under contract. But getting Gerald Everett to a decent amount of money was a bit of a surprise to me. So, yeah,
I think clearly that there's other things going on that obviously we don't know as fantasy managers, as football enthusiasts. I think with trades and maybe there's tight ends that have they've been wanting trades to come around.
Don't forget to hit the like you guys are early.
Hey,
hit the like button and the subscribe button if you like to see more videos like this. Okay, bye.
I love it.
All right. Well, they hopped in a little earlier than I expected.
Where's Skylar?
She was in there, wasn't she?
She just stood in the background.
I don't know. She was in the background, then dome on the floor. I don't even know what just happened. But hey, everybody like and subscribe. So
because our kids say to, okay?
Yeah. So yeah, that was Gerald Everett. So just talking about who's left out there, there's not really anybody interesting at tight end. Wide receivers, Calvin Ridley still hasn't signed anywhere, which is kind of a surprise to me. We thought that we thought that he'd be at the top of the wide receiver market, but from what I heard, the Pats were going after him pretty hard, but he prefers to stick with the Jaguars, and that's why he hasn't signed yet, because he's trying to work out a deal to stay there. Hollywood Brown, I haven't heard a peep about him going anywhere, which is I think he's probably the second best wide receiver in free agency right now, so kind of surprised that didn't happen. But yeah, other than that, that's the shocking number of people that signed in the past day and a half.
It's crazy.
Took out the majority of the free agent market.
So the NFL New Year starts tomorrow at 4 Eastern?
I believe
it's that right?
4 p.m. Eastern. Yep.
4 p.m. Eastern. That starts the new year, and all of this happened in a 36-hour period before it was even supposed to happen.
Yeah, I mean the total window, which obviously we still have until 4 o'clock or 4 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, it's a 52-hour window, and I didn't count. I don't want to count. There's a lot here. I mean, we're talking about 35, 40 players all come into agreements. So it was fun. Like the amount of alerts I was getting on my phone and stuff, it was a blast for
I had made mention to you about, I was like, I don't remember it ever being like this, or have I just not cared as much as I care now?
No,
but
I
this
think
is crazy.
I think this has been a crazy tampering period with the amount of deals that happened. Good for the running backs, like like we said. Glad that I mean they're still not getting paid like other positions. I mean, perfect example. Noah Fant, we were just talking about getting 2 years for 21 million, 10.5 million a year, and Tony Pollard, who's been way more productive, is getting 8 a year. Like Noah Fant's shown nothing to get more money, and so like, mamas, don't let your kids grow up to be running backs.
Did you just come up with that right now?
No. I heard it somewhere else, and like, I can't remember where I've heard it. I give props to whoever said it, but like, the reality is that's what's going to happen with kids playing football at younger ages and whatnot. They're not going to want to be a running back if they've got enough talent. They're going to try and be a receiver, but if you're too small, then it is what it is.
So I want to bring this all back around to like dynasty football, our league. Like if you prior to Monday, it was a buyer's market and now it becomes a seller's market. Like everything that you wanted to trade, that you wanted to negotiate with other people, like everything just got more expensive. Right? Do you agree?
Yes and no. So like, yesterday or on Sunday, you could have tried to make some trades that were speculative that could have benefited you very well, right? Like, let's say I traded away Joe Mixon because I was worried. Well,
let's just say you happened to be in talks with somebody, which is all speculative, right? And then all of a sudden he gets released and it's like his price dropped for like 2 hours.
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden his price went up.
Yep. Exactly. I mean, like I mentioned Tyjae Spears, right?
Yes.
He was a second-year player who his price a week ago was super high because everyone assumed he was going to be the workhorse back in Tennessee. Tony Pollard goes there, it crushes his value. Tony Pollard had no idea. Like, if I had tried to sell him, I could have got, who knows? Now that he's gone to the Titans.
My point is it would have been less than it is now. And if that means you were trading player for player versus player for player plus a pick or something of that nature.
So what happened is we removed some of the question marks, and sometimes you have to take a reduced price for question marks, if that's what you mean. But some of those question marks would work out positively. Some of them will work out negatively. So it all depends. Josh Jacobs, like, if you tried to sign him tried to trade for him last week, his value was probably depressed because he didn't have a team, didn't know for sure where he was going. Now he's gone to the Packers. And Aaron Jones is gone. He's got a solid landing spot. But some people went up, some people went down. Gus Edwards, as we mentioned, up. Stock up. Darnell Mooney, stock up. Gabe Davis.
But Gus Edwards is someone that you might want to trade for now.
If you're a contender, you might want to trade for Gus Edwards.
Might be someone that you want to like pursue.
There's may or may not.
My point is the law and increasingly towards the draft, stocks are going up. The closer we get to season, the stock continues to rise. Is my point.
I don't want to say it's all up. It all changes. Everything is constantly changing until
you just don't want to agree with me. And that's fine.
Fine.
That's most of it.
Fine. No, I disagree with your statement. It is not stock up. Honestly, right now is a time where draft pick value is up because you don't know who that is. Once you have a player, their value might be lower than the draft pick because you still have that surprise. So it's all fluctuating all the time. It's like the real stock market, which is always moving up and down, up and down,
Oh, okay.
up and down, up and down. Okay, I'm ready for bed. I don't know about you. I've lost sleep over paying too much attention to all of this the past 2 days.
My life hasn't recovered after the hour we lost.
I'm so tired from that still too, and like, dude, I get up at like 3:30 in the morning, which means I've been feeling like I get up at 2:30 in the morning, and getting up at 2:30 in the morning is gross. I mean, so is 3:30, but 2:30 is even grosser.
That sounds the same to me.
Yeah, it's because you get up at weird hours.
I know what I understand, because getting up at 2:30 in the afternoon versus 1:30 in the afternoon is a big difference.
See, there you go. All right, cheers, bud. Another fun episode.
Cheers. This was fun. This was the highlight of the last month or so, because it's been dead since then.
Yeah, and unfortunately now we're gonna go back into a little bit of a lull until the NFL draft, but that's gonna be so exciting. But we got like 6 weeks. So.
Cool.
All right, later, buddy.
Right. See you later. Bye.